So Antifa kills again. So BLM is now openly just this organization that stole from everybody. It was just a money laundering organization for the Democrats. And notice you're not hearing any Democrats discuss this, say we should find, we need to talk to these people, we need to get this money. Now you're hearing people, whoa, okay, black ice, all right. It's like 7 in the morning. And yeah, there's black ice. Oh, bro, watch out, dude. There's black ice. But you are in you're in a new Charger. And there's that moment where you suddenly like actually hear it, like you hear the way that the tires hit black ice, and you're like, oh, okay. For real though, So now we got BLM steals the money, Antifa kills more people. This is where the Northwest is at, and the crackheads rule the streets. Let me make sure this is clearly understood. If you see this all the time at grocery stores. I remember one guy looking at me, and he's like, that guy just walked out with like a whole 6-pack, and I'm like, that's normal now. And I could see it wasn't even really anger or resentment over it. He really had this sort of begrudged resignation. This world is getting crazier every day, kind of like the way Aaron Clary will talk about it. Aaron Clary puts it very, very well in like this idea of like the Urka-durka-dur, you gotta have gumption and spunk, you gotta have like these darn tootin', rootin' tootin', I remember there's a number of people who've imitated this. Was it when Nick Fuentes was like, yeah, Texas toast, and he goes, woohoo, Texas, and because he was mocking like that, even in Texas, they can't really stop the border invasion with all the king's horses and all the king's men. This is still just a bunch of people going herka-durka-dur with begrudged resignation, because nobody's like, no, take them out. Oh, BLM, fucking take them out. Take them out to the fucking shed, beat the crap out of them, get the information you need, and get the fucking money back, and fucking hang all these people from lampposts. Oh, Antifa, find them, strap them to a chair, torture them until you get what you want, fucking hang them from a lamppost. This is very simple. Oh, the illegals, you fucking kill one of them in front of all the rest, and you just watch as they all fucking run back home. Because it fucking works. Vladimir Putin just showed everybody, yeah, it fucking works. If you say, well, how about you come and try to fuck with it, and now also this is something I want to make sure, because this has been completely, from everything I've seen, this has been completely misrepresented, is that for all of this, Russia annexed this, from what I understand, according to the rules that all these countries are signed up to, the regions that of the Donbass and I forget the other that have decided to become kind of Eastern Ukraine, that's completely allowed. The government of Ukraine was taken over violently by street thugs, and there were anti-civilian mercenary squads going after the ethnic Russians in Ukraine. So them separating and joining Russia, from what I understand, is completely legal. This is why that nobody has done anything to Russia, really. But NATO hasn't done anything to Russia, and all these, and like Germany signing up for Nord Stream 2. And so, like, as I recall, it was a completely legal effort by the way that the European states actually can. They can make their own states be like, these fuckers killed us, we're joining this other country. This is a completely legal process. And Russia was a part of the completely legal process. And that's why I'm like, okay, how is nobody mentioning this? And then nobody will mention the death squads on the Ukrainian side. No one will mention the fucking neo-Nazi death squads that widely reported. No one will mention that shit. Because everybody knows that their money, they're tied to it, or money is tied to it, or their party is tied to it. And then the other part is this. A lot of people are probably not mentioning the death squads of Ukraine because their own citizens joined them and were never arrested. That's my suspicion right now. Is that, like, Germany is being cool to Russia because Germany never arrested the Germans who went to Ukraine to fight for the neo-Nazis there. I'm betting that's what the deal is. That there's a whole bunch of people holding their piss like, oh no, I hope they don't mention the neo-Nazi death squads of Ukraine and some of our young men who joined them. So, I just keep sitting back like, how are motherfuckers not aware of this, not talking about it? It's totally kosher now to just, like, try to cite history, but without citing history whatsoever. And, But that's where we are. Like, Antifa are good people who just happen to murder every once in a while. They're good communists. They just happen to every once in a while, oh, no, these people committed obvious fraud, but they're okay. No, you see, because they're cool. They're cool, dude. See, they like cinema, and they like musicals, so they're cool, dude. It's okay. They rob, steal, cheat, and have no fucking principles whatsoever, but it's cool, bro. You should just yield to these unprincipled, violent people who steal money and launder it for a political party historically known for its love for a top-down hierarchy run by bankers and barons of industry. Now, once I really had that one little book about how bad the Democratic Party really was historically, and then I'm like looking at it, and I knew a lot of this, but not in that detail, not that simply put forward, where it's that it really became like very obvious. No, this party has always thought of, one, the Constitution as something that holds it back. Now, this is something I could absolutely, and I was thinking about this, and I was like, yeah. So when growing up in a Democratic household, being a Democrat for so many years, yeah, Democrats think the Constitution holds them back, not the Republic. They think it holds them back, and they know that the Republicans got to play by the rules, so they do everything they can to fuck up the rule book. That is literally all it is. It's nothing more than this. They want to write the rules and them alone, and they think that they're the only people who should be able to. They think they're intrinsically better than anybody who believes in the model of the constitutional republic. They believe they're better than tradition. They're novel. They have novel ideas. They're the new thing. They're the new improved version. And they really do believe very much in a hierarchical structure of society. And what's interesting is how a lot of, it's kind of, I'm of two minds on this. I've met many Democratic men that I realize, oh no, you want order. So this is something that has come up because of doing martial arts. And when I've run into people who are kind of like leftists into martial arts. This was definitely something I saw as kind of a personality trait, a desire for order. And what's very interesting about with such men that I've encountered in their desire for order has been this kind of thing like, oh, if I always wanted to do something like martial arts, oh, it seems so like healthy. And so one of the things that I still remember, okay, so my martial arts instructor was a hardcore libertarian who killed men and liked it. He liked killing people. So it was one of these things that he had a mentality that was, one, the mentality of a person with some serious PTSD. Two, he really did understand the universe as a place where you're going to have to make me do it. He came from a top-down, orderly structure of culture, such as get dressed for dinner. That he was from that kind of culture, that you wore, that like one of the, actually, here's a really good example, like somebody like Jim McIntosh, you would understand this one. My teacher came from one of those, from the East Coast, high Democrat kind of society of he didn't own blue jeans until he was an adult and out of the military. He was not allowed to own dungarees. Or I think it was something like that, like breeches or dungarees or something. It was really, I think he actually even put it in such an old-fashioned term, like to kind of add a little flair to it. But yeah, he's from that. So people who think like, but that's not very democratic culture. It's like, no, on the East Coast that was democratic culture. They're rich pieces of shit over there, and who run the party, and they have since the goddamn 1800s, early 1800s. Yeah, so not having a pair of jeans, your kid having to change and having help, having black waiters at your house. This was the Democrats. That's what the Democrats were, and that's who runs it. Yeah. So, and he's one of the people who made me understand this. He's like, you live in La La Land because you're from the West Coast. You don't fucking know shit. You're young. You're from the West Coast, and you don't know shit. And so, I have just this different view of, say, Republicans versus Democrat because I had somebody really shoot holes in everything Democratic Party and evidence it with like this is the world around you. This is the real world. Oh, that over there, this is this event that happened, and this is, and he's the one who put me on the soul music and put me on especially soul music and rock and roll. And he made me understand, no, fast cars, gun ownership, rock and roll and soul music, dancing with girls, and all of this is very American. This is not, it's not like other places. It's not European even. The Europeans got that all from us. It's people want we're cool. Most other places drool. That's why we rule, and it's why people want to come to America. And then on top of it, he also talked about how America is one of the few places where a kid like him, this rich white kid of kind of odd descent, could have half of his family being these mobbed up characters from one part of New York, another half of his family be like kind of fallen, low nobility. But then when he hangs out with his friends, he hangs out with one of the most famous boxers in American history, who would later become known as the famously bisexual world champ, who ended up going to prison. And so some of you who really know your boxing history would be like, what? And it's like, yeah, that was apparently his best friend growing up. Which that blew me away. He never said the guy's name. He would just allude to his best friend. No, yeah, my best friend, he was gay. Or, well, he was into women too, but blah, blah, blah. And he said this line famously when he went to jail or something. And then later, I end up finding out he's talking about this famous fucking boxer. But he didn't name drop. And, yeah, I always thought that was pretty fucking cool. It took me a long time, and I gave him credit where credit was due eventually. Like, you used to talk about this best friend of yours. Took me almost a decade to find out. Not only were you not bullshitting me, but you, like, wow, that was the kind of person who you went to a bar with and decided we feel like fighting. Who? Well, who will fight us? Like, what? That's crazy. But that was a different time. There were different kinds of men then. And so that's why it's like one of the, and now, people think of MMA, and it's like, no, you should think of a martial arts more like MMA. You should think of it as methods of beating men up. And to live like that, to be kind of a warrior of sorts, that what this person is really talking about is something more like the Shambhala tradition of Tibet. That it is how to be a warrior. And what are the aspects of the life of a warrior? And that the Tibetans took a lot of their ancient tradition of war and transformed it into a method of meditations upon certain key virtues about the human experience. Wow, that's a powerful cold wind this morning. Boy, ain't nobody around either. This is really fascinating. Okay, so can't let the Shambhala Warrior thing go away, because that's actually a very good book. The book that's about the Shambhala meditation method is actually a very good book, because what it is it gives you actually an understanding of the way Tibetans teach, because it's not written as some ancient text on Shambhala. It's written as actually a text, like a lecture. It's like lectures on meditation, and lectures on virtue. And I think even touches into, it even mentions the Arthurian tradition. That's how well, see, the Tibetans are like the Orthodox Christians in this, that they will absolutely know about your religion. They will completely say, this about it is great. Then what they can't agree to, they will have a completely reasoned argument for. And you'll understand. You'll be like, no, at that point, that's quite reasonable. That actually, like a lot of stuff about Christ's divinity, to somebody like a Tibetan Buddhist, there's a lot of it that it defies reason. This is the point of faith in that. And so there's kind of a magic that happens for martial artists that really comes from that sudden sort of burst in ability psychosomatically you get from repetition. The repetition of the movements comes across as somewhat magical. Its effect, the effect on the mind and concentration, But all of these are side effects of concentration, of repetition, of discipline. So what I'm hearing when I hear a lot of these men is, if only I had been taught like sort of a type of physical self-discipline, that in many ways they feel that their lives are complete, but there's a part of them that is not attached to their body in the way that they see in, like, say, martial artists. I also take it as there's a kind of body awareness. It shows as a type of confidence and poise of the martial artist. You'll see it in other disciplines athletically. Like you'll see it in, like, say, men who are gymnasts when they were young and, grew up, and they have poise. But it's, with martial artists, there's something that there's an interesting experience of, you meet a lot of other men, there's a lot of experiences that their context comes up when you study martial arts. There's this stuff that comes up now and then that it's like, it would only be a conversation that would come up in a martial arts, like, school, There's then also various kinds of, like, psychosomatic methods that martial artists will remember for generations, like a method of doing something that teaches the body to learn faster. So there are those things about martial arts training that I could understand is seen as kind of mysterious in it, and like, oh yeah, I wish I had done that when I was younger. But when I hear that I've heard this a lot from Democratic men. You don't hear this as much from Republican men, because they could use a gun. And I mean, seriously, this is way too real. And another is, I don't hear this from a lot of men because they had learned wrestling or boxing, and I've noticed Republican men and that end of things, they naturally shy away from violence. They just, it's just not their thing. The left of center as a cultural norm believes in violence. It believes in it as a method of solving problems, because they know it works. And it does come out of the low cultures of untrustworthy groups of people. The shtetlers, the barrio, the ghetto, the Hell's Kitchen types, the violent unionist end of the culture. These are people who, and so that's why you then get these wasps who at the top are also kind of gangster as well in a lot of ways. I mean, that's becoming more and more clear, I think. And that they understand that what this is just managing these various groups of people who see violence as a method to accomplish their goals, and that this is, and it really is, it's sort of this thing that's like kind of accepted about the masses as you would far more likely hear Democrats and people left of center speak about people in general, the masses, and because Republicans, conservatives, all those different types, they all have sort of a different view on the human. It's like, say, somebody who would say, like, all the time, they would be like, okay, they would describe themselves as conservative. Their view on the human, they, like, the idea of using the word the masses for people would not be, or for a conservative, they might use that. Christians tend to not use a term like that. I've just noticed that as just something, the way that they say things. They don't speak along those lines. They don't have that kind of philosophical language that comes out of Marxist philosophy and a lot of postmodern philosophy. So the idea of the warrior for God, that you are that you're enlisted now. The term, somebody, who is it? Was it you, Orthodox Phronesis, who said that after baptism, your priest said you're in the army now, or you're enlisted now, that you're enlisted in God's army against the forces of evil, and that especially the fact that the Orthodox have or speak of it in such terminology. See, rather, and I like that kind of concept, that the Orthodox don't say a term like the masses. They say you're enlisted in an army against evil. And so I kind of like, there's a good example of a different use of language based around a very different worldview and cosmology. The Orthodox Christian language versus the Marxists and the kind of postmodern typical idiots, and it's like where they talk about the masses, where the Orthodox speaks of the humans, that's just the way humans are. And so that acceptance of that's just the way humans are is also something I'm finding with this kind of conversation, like with the Democratic coworker who wants to be into martial arts, but he never got the chance. And it's like, so what's the goal of it? What do you want to achieve? What is it that you're looking for? As opposed to the veteran who has just always been down with Jesus. And that he knows if you want to destroy a man, like the line from the Jet Li movie, if you want to destroy a man, use a gun. Martial arts is for the preservation of your energy. And it was just a very sober view. It was, and even Jet Li's character is kind of astonished at just how simple of a view of life this man had embraced. It's actually a beautiful scene. The character is supposed to be Funakoshi Gichin, actually, or the son of Funakoshi Gichin, or Funakoshi Gichin himself, and it's the Fist of Legend by Jet Li, and that's I highly recommend it because it's probably one of his best, and easily one of the best martial arts movies of the late 80s, early 90s, for sure. But yeah, it's supposed to be Funakoshi Gichin, the man who starts the Shotokan, who Shoto. Funakoshi Gichin's pen name was Shoto. So it's the school of Shotokan. And so at least that's how I understand it. I don't think my teacher was bullshitting me on that one. But so this fundamental diametric worldview that is now separating everybody, this fantasy world that BLM and Antifa, and even a lot of sort of this new LGBTQ stuff, all this, these are people who are living in a fantasy world because they can't accept humans are just like that. Cruel, cold-hearted, quick to full of ambition, quick to take advantage of one another, propensity to lie, being low class and low minded. I like how Stefan Molyneux one time brought up the thing of, thank goodness humans are lazy, or else we would have never come up with a good idea. And I was like, it took me, I was blown away by how profound that was. We would have never tried to save time if we weren't lazy. So there's I think America is coming to a maturity point without having its sort of master in a dojo to teach them that as America becomes more secular and modern, America has no dharma, it has no Lao Tzu, it has nobody to tell it this is the way of things, this is how it should be. It kind of does from the religious traditions, but they're not universal. It would be much more like Taoism in this, that it would be 1,000 schools of Taoism. In America it would be like 1,000 forms of Christianity, each one kind of saying the same thing, but not quite teaching how to do it the same way. Because that's actually the big difference between Taoist schools, is that they'll have a lot of the same teachings, but they'll all teach it a different way. So you'll learn Tai Chi from two different people and it'll be the same form taught completely differently. And it's hard to explain until you're there in front of this person presenting you wisdom, a memory of the past passed on to the next generation. And with the states right now, that's what we're facing. We're facing now the dearth of this wisdom. We don't have a past generation that's passing something on, that's making people able to feel okay in their skin every day. To the point that you walk around rural Oregon, crackheads all over the place, having to smoke up some shit so that they could feel okay in their skin. And sometimes you get bitter as hell, especially when you grew up with it. And the fuckers were in every goddamn park that you went to as a kid and saying crazy things to you because you're a child, and crackheads are trying to pass on the game, trying to sprinkle a nigga. But it's also a shame that you spend your entire life going, what are we going to do about the crackheads? How are we going to help the men of our nation not be goddamn crackheads? And then it goes on for decades. We have lost that wisdom to be okay in our skin, to not feel weird in our fucking skin. And so we admire, the guys like, oh, you did martial arts, I wish I did that. And it's like, do you feel okay in your skin? Because that's the only difference. He's a brilliant guy. There's all kinds of shit he does. And I'm like, man, I wish I knew how to do that. But knowing how to kill men is not that special. Knowing how to do stuff with like a midi, that's special. That's creative. All the martial artists can do is pass on the ability to kill men to a great extent, according to the Book of Five Rings. That's one of the most, and making money off of it is even sort of more villainous. That's why I don't teach. I never got past that line in the Book of Five Rings. That I was just like, wow, I didn't think of it that way. My teacher was totally like, yeah, that's the reality, and it feels good to kill a man. And I'm just like, right, okay, But I had to face that is what it is to be human. And then I felt okay in my skin, because I was like, I didn't kill anybody, but I know somebody who did, and he says it feels great. But I'm not going to do that. And luckily, it was because of maybe these people are right, that if you kill a man, there's a place you'll go for it. And now I feel a lot better because I never did it. And hopefully I'll go to a better place after all of this.